This is 12th man up. The Seahawks were able to come away with a win last Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals, and we're about to face the Chargers this next week. But really quickly, I was surprised about this win against the Cardinals. I didn't expect us to only put up 19 points. We have been an offense first so far this season. Now, if you would have told me it would have been 19-9 headed into the season, I would have been like, okay, that makes sense. Just because I thought we were going to be a defense-first kind of team, run the ball, and none of us were expecting Geno Smith to put up the kind of numbers he has this season so far. The only thing that frustrated me about this game was the fact that our offense couldn't get anything going when our defense had stepped it up. So hopefully this next week, both of them can play at a caliber level. But our offensive line really struggled this past week. Now, Charles Cross, Abraham Lucas, they're rookies. They're learning. It's all part of the process. But for players like Damian Lewis, like, dude, you got to get it together. We got to get those centers and those blockers figured out, because sometimes they're not lasting more than like a second on that offensive line. But before we get into this Chargers game, I want to talk a little bit about Russell Wilson, because holy cow. It's been 6 weeks, and it's like, okay, has he figured it out yet? No. Has he figured it out yet? No. And his stats are just not looking good at all, especially compared to Geno Smith. And I'm just going to point them out real quick. We're going to start off with Russell Wilson. Okay? These are Russell Wilson's stats so far through the first 6 weeks. His passing yards, 1,400. His touchdowns, he had 5. His interceptions, he had 3. His passer rating is at 83. His QBR rating is at 35. His Pro Football Focus grade is at 59. 59, okay? And his completion percentage is at 58. That's terrible. Geno Smith, on the other hand, through the first 6 weeks, he's had 1,500 passing yards. He's had 9 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He's had a passer rating of 108, a QBR rating of 68, a Pro Football Focus grade of 86, and a completion percentage of 73. Those are the kind of numbers everyone expected Wilson to put up. And it's insane to see this Denver team kind of fall apart, because they're so good defensively. And that's why they're able to hold the Chargers so well. And that I think is going to help us a little bit headed into this game, watching the Chargers and Broncos play a little bit that Monday night. But everyone is saying that Pete kind of saw something with Wilson and knew that he was going to just plummet. Now, I obviously think that Pete and other people knew that Russell Wilson was past his peak performance, but no one expected this. No one expected Russell Wilson to fall apart the way he has. And personally, for me, I don't think he's just going to drop off. I don't think he's going to stay this way. I think eventually he'll get it figured out. I think maybe his coach will probably get fired, and they'll figure out a little bit more with that offense. But man, he is just struggling to adapt to this team. He can't get any kind of rhythm going. He's missing DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, because his receivers, they suck. They suck. All this talk about Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, they're not good. I'm sorry, they're not. Jerry Jeudy is in his own world on the field. Like, Russell Wilson is throwing 10 yards past him. Like, what are you doing, dude? Do you not know the route? And for Russell Wilson, he's missing reads to his tight ends. Russell Wilson isn't playing this week against the Jets because of a hamstring issue. Okay, but that doesn't mean with that hamstring issue, he's not able to see the reads on the field. I mean, this was the issue he had in Seattle, is he always kept trying to throw downfield and no one was available. He never just threw to the checkdowns. I mean, he did here and there, but not as much as he should. And Shannon Sharp made the point, because, he's on Undisputed. He's obviously a former Bronco player, and he's frustrated about this whole thing, that Russell Wilson is just missing his reads, missing his wide open tight ends. And even at the end of the game, he had a receiver wide open coming underneath to score a touchdown, and he missed it completely. And so Russell Wilson, although I think he will bounce back eventually, he has not been looking good at all. And after the trade we had with Denver, he had a contract extension for 5 years. for a total of $245 million. $165 million is guaranteed in that contract. I mean, I know there's a lot of pressure against him on the field and off the field because, some people find him to be a little bit cringy and whatnot. But he's got to figure it out. What other choice does he have? So hopefully, I hope the best for him because I don't want to see this. I love watching Russell Wilson. I still want to enjoy him. I'm obviously glad that, Geno is playing well right now and our team is looking good, sitting at 3-3. But do I want to see Russell Wilson, the quarterback I watched and loved for so many years, to just completely fall apart? Of course not. I have him on my fantasy too. I don't need him to do terrible. Okay, so I just want to talk about that real quick because it's hard not to note how crazy that situation is. But headed into this game against the Chargers, there's some things that we need to be aware of. One is the Chargers lead the league in pass attempts. And Keenan Allen is possibly coming back in this game, but he's had a hamstring issue, and it's not going to be determined until Sunday if he's actually going to play or not. So either way, I don't think he's going to be as effective on the football field, even though Herbert likes to find the ball to him a lot. So either way, I think Gerald Everett, who the tight end that we used to have, has been phenomenal on the Chargers so far. Herbert obviously loves finding him. That is someone that we need to take care of in this game, especially since we didn't take care of Hawkinson against the Lions. We need to take care of Everett in this game for sure. But Herbert is struggling right now. This last game against the Chargers, he threw a lot, and he only averaged 4 yards a pass, which is insane. Now, obviously, Herbert, he's got hurt ribs right now, so I really want to see our defensive line play the same way they did against the Cardinals. I mean, we really got after them that game. Our pass rush looked good. Nwosu, Mafe, they're looking good. So I'm hoping this will continue to move on into this next week because this Chargers team is so injured. It is so beat up. They're missing multiple offensive tackles. They're missing a center. And this is something we really need to take advantage of. A lot of people are talking about, headed into this season, we all thought the Chargers were going to be Super Bowl contenders. And that looking in the schedule, we all thought we were probably going to lose this game against the Chargers. But, you kind of look into it, and we have a good chance of taking over this game. If we run the ball and Geno Smith can find his reads and find his guys. Because the Chargers, corner, J.C. Jackson, who got paid a ton of money, he's been looking terrible right now. So the guy we really need to be avoiding is Asante Samuel. Now, he's allowed a 77.7 rating. So if anything, we need to avoid him and keep picking on J.C. Jackson. The Chargers corners aren't looking anything threatening, and their run defense is absolutely terrible right now. The Chargers' run defense is the worst in the league. They're giving up at least 6 yards a carry. And after how well Ken Walker has performed this past week, we need to keep feeding him the ball. That's going to open up the play-action game, and Geno Smith should find DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And I'm going to get into that in a sec. But something also to point out is Eckler is the reason why they won last week. Eckler has been phenomenal. He's such a fun running back to watch. And this will be another good test for our defensive line to stop the run. Because this will be the biggest issue. They don't have all the wide receivers on this team for the Chargers. They may have Allen, who knows. But I think, if anything, the biggest threat is going to be the run game. So that'll be a huge test for us. Now, as for Seattle, our rush and secondary defense attacked Murray phenomenally because he only had a 67% passer rating and threw an interception. He didn't score any touchdowns at all, and he absolutely struggled against us. The only thing that he did good at was running. He was able to scramble out a lot. So that is something to be aware of. Now, I obviously don't think Herbert is going to try scrambling too much just because of his hurt ribs, but we got to be aware of the run game with Eckler. Now, Ken Walker, with this average 6 yards a carry from the Chargers defense, I expect us to give him the ball a ton because, man, did he have a breakout game last week against the Cardinals. I mean, he did phenomenal running the ball, and he scored a great touchdown as well, and that's why we were able to win that game. Now, I had also mentioned about when we were playing the Lions. Before going into the Lions game, I had mentioned that DK Metcalf needs to get over 100 yards in that game if we were going to win, and just see what happens. If we give DK over 100 yards in a game, how well will he do? How well will this team do in general? And obviously that's easier said than done, but we did amazing offensively, 48-45. And last week DK didn't see the ball enough. I think we need to get the ball to him a lot more. Obviously, Geno is very comfortable throwing the ball to his tight ends. And with our run game, he should be able to work off of the play action, find our tight ends, and eventually find DK for these big plays. DK is so big. You can just have him run these slant routes, these extended digs, and give him the ball out front, and he should be able to make a play. There's no reason why DK Metcalf shouldn't be getting the ball a ton in these games. Obviously, for Tyler Lockett, he's also having a hamstring issue, and he'll be a game-time decision. He didn't practice on Thursday, which is something to be aware of just because, players who play on Sunday usually always practice on Thursday. But, he is a veteran, so we'll see if he kind of gets away with that and is able to play on it. I'm not sure how well he'll be able to perform, kind of just like Keenan Allen. But like I said, we got to get the ball to DK and then obviously get the ball to our tight ends because that's what we're really good at. So, but I'm looking at this ESPN report on the game, and honestly, they're giving the Chargers a 72% chance of winning this game. They always doubt us, I swear. But I think this game can easily fall into our hands. And I'm not the only one saying this. I think everyone is starting to realize that Seattle is the kind of team that, may not be an effective playoff team, but you put them up against anyone, you're just like, they can win. They can find a way. You just don't know. And with this injured Chargers team, there's no reason why we can't win this game. They have a beat-up offensive line. They have a hurt quarterback. They have Keenan Allen, who is hurt, who may play or not. And I didn't even mention this. Bosa's not in. So their defense is really weak. And we need to take control of that because this is the opportunity that we have. And there's no reason why we should be at 27%. We need to prove these people wrong because Geno is playing well. Walker's playing well. Our defense came off a good week. I mean, Tariq Woolen is playing fantastic, having 4 interceptions in the past 4 games. So this is looking good. We're kind of getting a roll here. Are we perfect? No, we're not. There's some things to fix. But the only reason why we'll lose this game is if we shoot ourselves in the foot. And I've talked about this a lot. The penalties. The penalties is what's going to get in the way of us if we lose this game. 100%. The holding calls, the false starts, all of it. Okay. Pete Carroll is a veteran coach, and he needs to get this taken away from this team because we are, outside of the Denver Broncos, the most penalized team. So clean that up. Clean it up. And hopefully we could come through with this win because if we do, I think we could be very effective. So, but kind of just to conclude, this is a tough week and a great test, and I think it could be a shootout. Who knows? Anything can happen. It's going to be a really interesting game. It's just a matter of which Seahawks team will show up, but who knows? So anyways, go Hawks. Let's hope for the best. See you guys.